Newly resurfaced documents show that the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, they say they located the chest containing the original 10 Commandments, the tablets of the 10 Commandments, the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant came up again in public discourse not long ago in a big way. Recently, CIA papers were found that talk about secret experiments that were meant to find the Ark's location not through traditional archaeology, but through controversial methods like remote viewing. This caused a sudden surge in interest.
The CIA documents reveal that in 1988, the CIA used experimental intelligence methods known as remote viewing to confirm the Ark's existence, saying it was somewhere in the Middle East. Imagine that. Good job, CIA. Hidden underground, dark and wet. Where else would it be? And protected by, listen, the use of a power unknown to us.
Before you can understand why this story is so interesting, you need to look at the bigger picture. The CIA has a long and difficult history of working on projects that aren't typical. Project MK Ultra is one of the most well-known. It was a set of trials that tried to control people's minds, often without their permission. Then there's the controversy over the JFK files, which showed that President John F. Kennedy had real doubts about how the CIA was running its business. In fact, Kennedy is said to have said he wanted to smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces just before he was killed. The CIA has had a rough past, but every once in a while, documents from its archives are made public, usually decades after the fact. Sometimes these declassified documents prove long-held suspicions, and other times they just make the puzzle deeper. This second group includes the new information about the Ark of the Covenant. People were surprised that these papers talked about the Ark, but it was how the CIA was said to have tried to find it that really made people look twice. The agency used remote viewing to try to find the Ark, according to the papers. Remote watching is the act of trying to get information about a target that is far away or can't be seen without using your 5 senses. People basically call it a type of extrasensory perception, or ESP. In the case of the Ark, a remote viewer had to focus on certain geographic locations without being told what they needed to do. It's helpful to remember what the Ark of the Covenant is thought to be before going into more detail about what the papers showed. According to the Bible, it was a holy chest that God told the Israelites to build and gave to Moses while the Israelites were at Mount Sinai. The Ark was made of acacia wood and pure gold was put on top of it. 3 very important religious items were inside: the stone tablets with the 10 Commandments, a jar of manna, and Aaron's rod that had magically grown buds. The Ark was more than just a place to store holy things. It was seen as a real sign of God's presence among His people. People showed it a lot of respect. The book of Exodus gives a full account of how it was built, including exact measurements, the placement of golden cherubim on top of the mercy seat, and strict rules about how it could be used. With carefully made poles, only the Levites could carry it. According to the Bible, touching the Ark directly was highly forbidden and could kill you right away. The Old Testament is full of stories about how powerful the Ark was. Many people believe that it split the Jordan River, led the Israelites to the Promised Land, and helped them win battles. When the Philistines took the Ark one time, bad things were said to happen to them until they returned it. Another thing that has helped keep the Ark living in people's minds is popular culture. It may be best known for being at the center of the story of the 1981 movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. In that movie, the Ark is shown as a weapon with immense, almost supernatural power that both governments and adventurers would kill to have. Even though it was made up, the movie helped make the Ark a lasting symbol of power and wonder. The CIA's choice to use remote viewing to look into the Ark almost sounds like a story from a Hollywood movie. But according to the papers that were made public, that's exactly what they did as part of Project Sunstreak, which was like the more well-known Project Stargate. The Sunstreak project was a part of a larger study into psychoenergetics, which is the study of how people can connect with things or learn about faraway places without using their physical senses. The subjects were split into 2 main groups: psychokinesis, moving things with your mind, and remote viewing, seeing things that are far away. When it came to the Ark, the remote watcher was given the target without being told who it was. They were only given a set of numbers to pay attention to. As they became more relaxed, they began to talk about what they saw. It was a box made of wood, gold, and silver that looked a bit like a coffin and was decorated with what they called seraphim, which is probably a reference to seraphim, which are angelic figures. It was said that the thing was underground in a dark and damp place. The person watching said that the area around them had domes like those in Islamic buildings and people speaking Arabic. What was even more interesting was that the viewer said the object was highly guarded by entities or energies, and that only spiritually authorized people could get to it. The watcher said that trying to force it open would lead to destruction by powers we don't fully understand in terms of physics. It's easy to think that all of this is crazy, but it's important to remember that the CIA has spent a lot of time and money on study methods that aren't the norm in the past. Over the course of the Cold War, military and spy agencies studied and improved remote viewing. Declassified papers show that the agencies were looking for any advantage they could get, even if it meant going beyond what science could really prove. There is good reason to be skeptical. Many scientists say that remote viewing has never been put through thorough double-blind tests, and that the cases where it worked could have been due to luck, subjective interpretation, or other psychological factors rather than real psychic ability. Still, the fact that the CIA, a very big and resource-heavy government body, took it seriously enough to spend millions of dollars on it makes it even more interesting. It is important to remember that the CIA did not necessarily support the reality of the Ark or the success of the mission, even though this may sound shocking. They were just writing down what happened in an experiment with remote watching. It's a whole different story if those answers are correct or reliable. On top of that, the papers show how intelligence agencies sometimes work outside the usual scientific rules, especially when normal methods don't work. People were very afraid that rival countries like the Soviet Union were working on mental spying during the Cold War. This fear led the US to do a lot of tests in areas that might not seem very scientific or on the edge of science. In this case, the experiment left behind a detailed and convincing account of something that is a lot like the Ark of the Covenant in the Bible. It's still not known for sure if it really exists where the user said it did. The Project Sunstreak files say that a remote viewer called Number 32 was told to pay attention to certain locations. This person didn't know what they were supposed to look for. Even though they didn't give a lot of details, the accounts they did give were very similar to what people have always thought about the Ark. The watcher said they saw a container made of wood, gold, and silver. From what they said, the container looked a lot like a coffin and was covered with what they called seraphim. These facts are very close to what the Bible says. From the book of Exodus, we know that God told Moses to make the ark's lid with two cherubim facing each other. The CIA viewer's description of it as a rectangular box made of acacia wood with gold on the inside and outside was very interesting. In addition to showing how the container looked, the monitor also showed information about the area around it. According to what they said, it was buried somewhere damp and dark. It was said that it was cold and scary there, which made it sound like this wasn't just a storage room or cave. In addition, the viewer said that there were mosque domes close and that people in the area spoke Arabic. Based on this knowledge, it was decided that the Ark lay down somewhere in the Middle East. Many experts and theorists think that the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is the most likely place where the Ark could be hidden under an Islamic building. Another very important place in Islam is the Dome of the Rock, which is on the Temple Mount. It was built around what Jews call the foundation stone. Many people think this is where Abraham got ready to kill his son Isaac as a sacrifice. Jews believe that this stone is also where the Ark of the Covenant used to sit in Solomon's temple. Jason Shirka, who has done a lot of work on alternative histories, makes a strong case that the Ark is hidden under the Dome of the Rock. He shows a piece of writing called the Pyramid Code that says the Holy of Holies used to be where the foundation stone is now. The most holy and deepest part of the Old Temple in Jerusalem was called the Holy of Holies. This is where the Ark of the Covenant was first put. Shirka says that modern distractions are being made to keep people from looking elsewhere. This suggests that global institutions want to keep the real spot from becoming widely known or accessible. Apparently, he thinks that the Dome of the Rock was built over this spot to protect what's below. He believed the site was a natural place for both worship and strife because it was religiously important, historically important, and had strong energies connected to it. It's not a new idea that the Ark might be hidden under the Temple Mount. Scholars and experts who study Jews have talked about it for generations. Some stories say that the Ark was hidden in a room under the Temple Mount not long before the Babylonians attacked Jerusalem. The high priests are said to have hidden the Ark in an underground vault so that it wouldn't be taken or destroyed when the city was about to fall. Even so, there are some problems with this idea. The Temple Mount is now one of the world's most politically and culturally charged spots. The Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque are there. These are two of the greatest places in Islam. There are tight rules about any archaeological work that can happen in the area, and it is closely watched. Any digging that might disturb the holy places could cause a lot of trouble, or even a war between countries. Because of this, there probably won't be a big search for the Ark for a while. The Ethiopian idea, on the other hand, says that the Ark was taken out of Jerusalem long before the Babylonians came. Menelik II, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, is said to have taken it and brought it to Axum, where it is said to live in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. But Shirka and others say that the real Ark is still hidden under the Temple Mount, even though there may be copies and fakes all over Ethiopia. It's even more mysterious because the remote user sent out warnings during the CIA's Sunstreak project. They said that the Ark was guarded by entities or forces that would keep people who weren't supposed to be there from getting in. The watcher said that these beings would kill anyone who tried to open the container in the wrong way. It is said that trying to use physical force like pulling or breaking open the container would have terrible results. This reminds me of stories from the Bible about how treating the Ark badly led to death. In the book of Samuel, when the Ark was moved wrong, a man named Uzzah reached out to steady it and was hit dead right away. This level of danger that comes with the Ark's actual presence changes the way people try to find or get it today. It makes me think that there may be spiritual or supernatural hurdles as well as political or archaeological ones. The CIA papers are interesting because they say that the box won't be opened until a certain time that is thought to be right. The Ark would stay hidden and safe until then. This belief fits well with some religious beliefs that say the Ark will not be shown until God restores everything, maybe when a new temple is built in Jerusalem. Of course, skeptics say that the whole story could just be a mix of wishful thought and creative interpretation. Remote viewing is a controversial topic in and of itself, and most experts don't trust it. Some people say that any accurate accounts could be due to chance, suggestion, or subconscious knowledge, not to any supernatural power. Even so, the details in the declassified CIA files are so similar to the traditional story of the Ark that it's not so easy to just ignore them. The fact that this situation hasn't gotten much attention from the public until recently makes it even more interesting. The CIA's website has had the papers available to the public for a while, but it took a lot of online talk, podcasts, and articles for the information to get to more people. The length of this wait makes me wonder how information is handled and shared these days. Stories that are important to everyone in the world can be quiet for years before they suddenly catch everyone's attention. The idea of misinformation or purposeful distraction is another thing to think about. Some theorists, like Shirka, say that the government might sometimes share truthful but incomplete information to keep people from focusing on deeper truths. If some groups already know where the Ark is, it makes sense to spread false information that doesn't agree with each other. This will lead to endless debate and make it harder to make a real finding. Major Ed Dames, a former intelligence officer in the U.S. Army who worked directly on the CIA's Project Stargate, says he just finished a new remote viewing session that was all about finding the Ark. In contrast to the previous anonymous watchers, Dames says they not only found the general area, but also know exactly where the Ark is. Major Dames's most recent work took him to the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron, which is a holy place with a long past in the Bible. People think that this is where the tombs of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are. These men are important to Jews, Christians, and Muslims as patriarchs. It is one of the oldest and most important places in the world where people continue to pray. During his remote viewing session, Dames says he found himself in a dark cave lined with stones. He said that he was filled with a terrible fear that he had never felt before in any of his earlier remote viewing work. He said that he saw a dense box-shaped object in this cave that was surrounded by a creepy, almost tangible sense of history and holiness. Again, his account of the Ark was very similar to how it was described in the Bible, as a holy chest that was kept safe and hidden from the world. Dames says that after a second exercise, he was able to focus better and get within a few meters of where the Ark was. However, the Cave of the Patriarchs is a wholly religious site that is off-limits to archaeologists. This idea is still mostly unproven and probably won't be proven anytime soon. Even though Dames's claims are interesting, it's important to remember that remote watching is still a controversial topic that has been talked about a lot. People who believe in remote viewing say that there is enough anecdotal proof to show that it can sometimes work. Others, on the other hand, call it pseudoscience because it relies on subjective interpretation instead of real-world proof. The truth is probably somewhere between being curious with an open mind and being skeptical but not sure. In addition to Dames's latest claims, it is worth going over some of the most popular ideas about where the Ark is right now again. Over the years, many different places have been mentioned, and each has its own supporters and evidence. One idea that keeps coming up is that the Ark is hidden under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This is something that many Jews and some Christian groups believe. The idea is that the Ark was hidden in a secret room under the temple complex before the Babylonians destroyed the first temple in 586 BC, so that it would not be taken. This idea fits with what the Bible says about how the priests of Israel took steps to protect the holiest things in their faith when an attack was about to happen. Archaeological studies have also found a huge network of tunnels and cisterns below the Temple Mount. This supports the idea that there may be a secret chamber there that has been untouched for thousands of years. But because of religious and political concerns, it is almost difficult to dig on the Temple Mount. The place is holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, making it one of the most controversial religious spots in the world. If someone tried to dig there, they would almost certainly be criticized around the world and could even start a deadly conflict. At least for now. If the Ark really is hidden under the Temple Mount, it won't be possible to get to it. There is another idea that it is the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, Ethiopia. Tradition in Ethiopia says that Menelik the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, brought the Ark to the country. Menelik is said to have gone to Jerusalem to see his father and then brought the Ark back to Ethiopia with him, either in secret or with Solomon's permission. Ethiopian Christians think that the Ark has stayed in Aksum ever since, being watched over by a single monk who has been given the job for life and is not allowed to leave the church grounds. For hundreds of years, this story has been told and is now an important part of Ethiopian Orthodox Christian faith. British historian Edward Ullendorf, who looked at the church during World War II, agreed with the story. However, Ullendorf later said that what he saw was a copy and not the real Ark. Also, because the artifact is religiously important, no outside proof has ever been allowed. Some doubters say that the Ethiopian claim is not backed up by solid proof because the object cannot be seen. An idea about the Vatican gives us a different view of what happened to the Ark. Some researchers think that the Roman Empire took the Ark and many other old treasures and gave them to the Catholic Church. This idea says that the Ark might be kept in the Vatican's secret archives, out of sight from the public to protect both the artifact and the security of religious institutions around the world. There is no clear evidence to support this theory, but it is still a popular one. The mystery surrounding the Vatican's hidden rooms and huge collections of ancient artifacts makes it more interesting. One of the Dead Sea Scrolls that was found in the 1950s is called the Copper Scroll. It may hold more information about what happened to the Ark. The other scrolls are mostly religious works, but the Copper Scroll looks like a treasure map because it lists dozens of hidden gold, silver, and holy items. There are people who think that the Ark of the Covenant might be one of these hidden treasures. But, despite many searches, none of the treasures mentioned on the Copper Scroll have ever been found. This makes it unclear what its real purpose is and whether it is real. Another interesting fact is that the apocryphal book of 2 Maccabees talks about how the prophet Jeremiah hid the Ark in a cave on Mount Nebo before the Babylonians came. According to this story, Jeremiah locked the cave and said that no one would know where it was until God determined it was time. This story says that the Ark's disappearance wasn't caused by theft or destruction, but by a deliberate act of storage until God restored it in the future. People like Zev Orenstein, who is the Director of International Affairs for the City of David Foundation, have said things that are similar to this idea. Orenstein said that the Ark would not be shown until its new home, a rebuilt temple, was ready. He was talking about historical work being done in Jerusalem. He made it clear that the Ark is not just a piece of art or a tourist draw. It has deep spiritual meaning. He thinks the Ark will stay hidden until people are ready to treat it with the respect it deserves. At the same time, some people have come up with much less plausible ideas about where the Ark might be. Some people have pointed to Antarctica, saying that strange high-energy leaks have been found under the ice there. Others have said that the Ark was taken away from Earth by great civilizations from the past, which may have been extraterrestrial in nature. Most historians and philosophers don't agree with these ideas because they are based on speculation. These things, however, show how much people are still interested in the Ark. One thing that almost all ideas agree on is that the Ark has a lot of symbolic power. While it may be buried in a forgotten cave, hidden under a holy site, or being watched over in an African church, the Ark is more than just a piece of history. As a physical manifestation of a holy covenant between God and people, it stands for a direct link to the divine. There is still a lot of interest and debate about where the Ark of the Covenant might be. It is important to think about not only where it might be, but also what it means on a deeper level, and what might happen if people try to find it again in ways that aren't spiritually guided by religious texts. A lot of the stories that go along with the current rise in interest in Ark theories involve psychic phenomena, remote viewing, and other ways of perceiving things that aren't there. Scientists and intelligence agencies are interested in these habits, but they also make people think deeply about their religious and moral beliefs. For instance, the Bible makes it clear that talking to psychics, spiritists, or using supernatural means without God's permission is wrong. In chapter 18 of the book of Deuteronomy, the Israelites are told very clearly not to use magic, sorcery, reading omens, witchcraft, or talking to the dead. People said that these actions were ugly to God, which is one reason why some countries were driven out before Israel. According to the Bible, using supernatural information without God's permission is not only risky, it's also a direct violation of His rules. This adds a scary element to the CIA's projects that use remote watching, like their search for the Ark. It's still not clear whether remote users were getting real information from a good source or one that was trying to trick them, even if they were able to access real information during their sessions. In Christian theology, for example, it is said that evil can look like good and show itself as an angel of light. This means that you shouldn't always believe magical revelations, even if they seem true or helpful. Many old warnings talk about the dangerous practice of trying to get knowledge or power through magical means that aren't allowed. Not only do people worry that miraculous insights can lead them wrong, they also worry that whole societies can drift away from the truth. For this reason, religiously speaking, remote viewing may be taking people further away from spiritual truth instead of closer to it, even if it has led to detailed accounts of the Ark that match traditional pictures of it. When you look at the bigger picture, the increased interest in the Ark of the Covenant speaks to a deeper part of people. The Ark was never just a thing or a piece of history. It meant that God was really there with His people. In the desert, it was where the Israelites worshipped and where they could see God leading them. People thought that God's power went with the Ark and helped them win battles, part water, and even bring down the walls at Jericho. But in history, the Ark's disappearance stands for more than just the loss of a holy item. It means a change in how people will experience God. It would no longer be possible for God to only be present in one place or thing. The destruction of the temple and the Ark's disappearance were signs that the connection between God and people would soon change, so that it would not be tied to a place or a physical object. This is what Christians believe about the New Covenant at its core. In the New Testament, especially the book of Hebrews, the structures and practices of the Old Covenant were seen as mere copies and shadows of what was really going on in heaven. In Hebrews 8, it is said that the tabernacle on earth was a model based on things in heaven. It was a temporary system that pointed to a better relationship that would come through Jesus Christ. When Jesus came into the world, lived a perfect life, and died as a sacrifice for our sins, He completed the law and made a new way for people to be right with God. The Ark of the Covenant, which used to be the most important part of prayer, was no longer needed with the New Covenant. God would no longer live between the cherubim on the mercy seat. Instead, the Holy Spirit would bring God's presence into the minds of believers. In 1 Corinthians 3:16, Paul writes, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" This big change is beautifully explained in this verse. This doesn't mean that the Ark isn't important in terms of history or symbolism. What an amazing find it would be if it were found today. It would have huge religious, cultural, and political effects. But from a spiritual point of view, the most important bond is the one that everyone can see right now, not the one that is hidden in a cave or locked away in a vault. Some ideas about what Revelation 11:19 means have made it even more mysterious. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and the Ark of the Covenant was seen inside it. And there were lightning strikes, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a very heavy hailstorm. This description has led some people to think that the Ark is no longer on earth but has been taken to heaven. Others, though, say that this heavenly Ark is not the earthly one that was taken to heaven, but the real Ark, of which the earthly Ark was just a copy. From this point of view, the Ark on earth was like the temple in heaven, in that it was a shadow of the Ark in heaven. The book of Hebrews backs up this idea even more by saying that Christ did not enter a temple that was built by people and was just a copy of the real one. Instead, he went into heaven itself. These verses make it sound like the Ark on earth, amazing and important as it was never the end of God's plan for people. Coming back to the present, the thought of finding the Ark brings up a lot of difficult questions. Would it make faith stronger? Or would it just add to the arguments, problems, and maybe even idolatry? Some people are afraid that the Ark could be used as a political or religious tool if it were to be found again. Others see it as a strong sign that God is still involved in the past of people. There's also the matter of when. As we already said, Jewish custom says that the Ark will not be shown until the third temple is ready. Building a third temple is a very touchy subject because it has to do with religious predictions and the way things work politically in the Middle East. Any find of the Ark could make things worse and start arguments that aren't just religious. From a Christian point of view, the main focus should always be on the new bond that Jesus Christ makes possible. In Hebrews 9:24-28, it is emphasized that Christ went into heaven and will now appear to us in the presence of God. His death was the only sacrifice that could truly complete what the Ark and the system of sacrifices were meant to represent. So finding the Ark, if it ever happens, would be interesting and significant in history. But emotionally, everyone is already welcome to have a relationship with God. God's presence is no longer limited to a real thing or place because of the new covenant. It's inside people who believe. Because of all of this, people who are looking for the Ark should be careful, humble, and keep things in perspective. It's a great story full of history, faith, and mysteries. But it's also a lesson that the best treasures aren't always buried under old stones. Sometimes they're found in simple truths that don't change over time. No matter what comes next in the search for the Ark of the Covenant, it keeps people curious, interested, and on the lookout. Its main goal is to remind people of something bigger than themselves, a story that runs through history and connects the material to the eternal. The Ark's exact position may not be known for now, but the bond it stands for, God's desire to live with people, is still open to anyone who wants it. And that may be the most important discovery of all.